that's why most research articles isn't the one paper that's going to be life-changing. It's usually a series of papers, the series of questions lined up together that are going to make the difference.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show and our featured guest segment. I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And today's featured guest, we have an esteemed guest. We have the Director of Research for Parker University, Dr. Katie Pohlman. Katie, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
It's such an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. I want to kick it off with a little bit of origin story because I don't know the answer to this question. How did you get bitten by the research bug? As a chiropractor, what started that path to where you are today?
I assure you, if I knew it was coming, I would have not let it happen. But I did get bitten by that research bug. And so I was actually at Palmer College of Chiropractic is where I got my chiropractic degree. And my husband was also a student a few tries behind me. I always said he wanted to be just like me, but not when he's in the room with me. And so he started a few tries after I had started. And because he was there, I had heard about this opportunity to get a master's in clinical research. And I was like, well, I'm hanging out here in Davenport. So maybe I'd like to understand research better. So let's just do this program. And I can say it wasn't until Dr. Cindy Long, who is the Dean of Research at Palmer College of Chiropractic, and her mentorship style was perfect for me. And she just kept putting me in opportunities that let my research skills, also known as OCD, shine. And I really realized that I liked it. And then I started to really understand the gaps that we had in our profession or in the literature. And I thought it was an opportunity to fill it. I thought it was a white flag. It may have been a sinkhole that I jumped into. But if I would have known that was going to happen, I don't know if I'd walked in there because I wanted to be a chiropractor. I wanted to be a practicing clinician. But hopefully I'm still helping patients like I always intended to, just in a different manner.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper there. You opened the can of worms, so let's kind of go there. What do you find to be really the gaps missing in research in our profession? What do you think is most important, or how do you prioritize what you think is missing and important for us to make sure we address?
There's so many things that are a priority. And if you ask a scientist what's most important, they're going to tell you their work. And so I very much know that the stuff my topic I am passionate about, I do think it needs to be filled. I do respect other people's work and know the priority is hard. So for me, what I went into is I was focusing in the world of pediatrics. And so I was getting additional training in pediatrics, and I was told all these things. And then I started diving into the literature, and I was realizing we actually don't have evidence for those things. And I think that was one of my, what in the world is going on here? And it wasn't that what I'm passionate about is that chiropractors know what we have evidence for and know what we don't. That doesn't mean we're bad. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but we have to know what we do and don't. So on the education side of things at Parker University, I'm making sure that's a step. That when we're training students on ideas and concepts, like we can say which ones have literature, which ones are clinical experience, and that we're working on. And so that was one of the big ahas that I had. And then in the pediatric world, there's just so much we don't know. And so when I started in that world and seeing all these gaps, I felt the first place to start was in the world of safety. So if we can first show that it's that the risk of harm was minimal, then go into benefits of it. Jumping into the world of safety, I realized that the idea of do no harm, which is throughout healthcare, actually isn't well. There's lots of gaps there. And I actually think in the chiropractic profession, we should be the model profession for what patient safety looks like. There is no reason for us not to have all of the attributes. And so that's what I'm passionate about, is filling those gaps so that when nobody knows how to do patient safety, care. Nobody knows what that looks like. I want other healthcare professions to be looking at us like they've modeled it. What can we do with that? And so those are topics that I'm very passionate about and that I think we can and should be filling.
I love it. And I feel like I get to stand on the shoulders of giants and interpret the hard work that everybody does in the research world and try to translate it into the best consumer speak possible. But on the topic of the difficulties and challenges creating research, so many docs out there, especially young docs, I feel like are passionate about the concept of research, but the application of doing it seems just so beyond the scope of what they can do. Could you just take a moment and walk through how does a research paper get published? How do you come up with the idea? How do you go through the process? I know it's probably daunting and it takes a long time, but what are the highlights from how you get from idea to publication?
Right. And one of the things that just pause on all of that. And I always say I have been taught every single step along the way. I'm not a natural writer. I'm not a natural with data. All of this I've been taught. And if I can be taught, anybody can be taught, right? Like, so that's a big piece of it. And I think the first thing is just start with our natural curiosity. So everyone is seeing amazing things in their clinics. If we start and really question why and how, that's where the good questions are going to come from. I love when I get I am working with a chiropractor from Canada who right now has her dentist referring all of his patients after a frenectomy to her, and she wants to know, am I really helping? The other doctor says if a child goes to you, they heal better, but she doesn't know. And it wasn't that she just like I do this. She went in and designed a study to really see if what she's doing. Because if she's like, then we shouldn't be the only ones doing this. If it is, and mamas don't need to bring their babies here if it's not. So it's questioning in that manner. Like, are you seeing things? Is it just happening in your clinic? And why is it just happening in your clinic? Or is it something that should be available to everyone? And so just questioning what's going in that natural curiosity. I think it's hard because we always try, I think our brains try to make logical connections and rational and taking that piece out of it and just raw questions why. So starting there, and then the design of a study can be, very complex from a randomized controlled trial, systematic review to, but if you go as basic as a case report, this happened in my clinic. What is the natural progression of whatever was going on, finding the literature, what has been done, and then writing the case history in a such a manner that it would be repeatable. And that's the big piece of the literature. You write it so that it can be repeated. A lot of, especially with chiropractic literature, it's, I did an adjustment. Well, what does that mean? How, where, how? And so adding a little more specificity, we don't need to go to, like torquing on the left said joints or T7. So we don't need to go that deep, but a little more explanation that it can be repeatable or bigger studies can be designed with the same methodology or clinical application. And then it goes to the publication process, which is just as hard as writing it up. I do suggest that when you get it written, have friends review it. And then when it gets to the when you go to the publication, every journal has its own formatting style. I probably spend an hour or two just formatting it based on a journal specifications. And then it goes through peer review. A lot of times you get peer review back and you don't want to see it. Nobody likes their works being criticized. But I can say that the peer review process is really wonderful when it works. It doesn't always. There's always bad things that happen, but when it works, a peer reviewer's intent is really to make your paper stronger and to make sure it's making a contribution to it. So if you can read it like that, and hopefully the editors have picked peer reviewers, that's their intent. It really is a good process. So if you can take it in like that. modify your paper, send it back. This could be 1 or 2 rounds of peer review, and then it goes into publication. At this point, I'm usually very happy never to see it again because you have read it so many times that you're just glad it's off your plate. But then from there, one of the things that I'm very appreciative to have you all translating it is like so much work has gone into it. And a lot of times, like that's where it ends because I have to go focus on, the next study that's coming up. But that's not where it actually ends. That's when it actually tries to make a big impact. And so thank you for taking that next step. It is a missing piece that we have is that translation piece. Like, how do we get this into practice?
That is a daunting process for sure. May explain why there's not more research going on, but I've got a ton of questions. I'll throw a few at you. You tell me which ones you want to go with. What is, why don't you think there's more research being done in the profession? Should it be done only at the institutional level? Should it be done on the clinical level? Should there be more collaboration? Is there a way to get more clinicians more interested? That's one line of questions I have. But the other line of questions I'll throw at you too is there's so much we don't know. My question for you is, what do we know? What is there that we can declare in any sense of definitive confidence, if anything?
Awesome. I'm gonna quickly answer the what we do know, not with the science answer. The stuff that is coming out, you guys know better than anyone else. Um, or the knowledge translation that is coming out is exponentially changing. We have very well trained individuals working in the chiropractic world right now that are working together like never seen before. We really are in a beautiful spot. So I know I appreciate that because we do focus on what we don't know a lot. But the last 10 years, the students walking across the stage right now and the practicing docs, what they have available is actually quite remarkable. And it's exciting to see what's all in the works as well. But going to how whether research should be done in institutions or collaborative or on their own, yes to all of that. Yes to all of that, and we do need obviously our institutions are they're not technical schools. We are an academic center. We need to have research going on in them. That's what an academic center university is all about. Two, we need collaboration. Uh, I think the most vital questions come from practicing docs, and that's why I just asked the question why. I don't get to see what you all get to see every day and people's reactions, and there is raw, beautiful uh, material in there that we need to be studying, and so that collaboration. I always say I don't want to be the old white male in an ivory tower telling other people what to do. I want to be in the ground, working with people. But there was only I've never really had a practice, and I've always said that's one of my few faults. No, I'm just kidding. But one of my things I'm just very well aware of. I think clinicians or scientists who have clinical practice or have had clinical practice, their questions are very, very relevant. I would have had to throw in a child back if I wanted to go back to clinical practice. So I may have made the wrong choice and kept the children, but so they're only 24 hours. But I'm aware of that and I make sure I'm working with practicing docs at all times because that is where the magic is happening. Where good questions are going to come from, where relevant questions are coming from. And then I'm hoping that we can give practicing clinicians the skills they need to be able to produce their own research on their own, as well as ways to work with major universities to produce research. Throughout my career, I've been known to put on mentor case reports competitions, usually in the pediatric world, because that is one of my expertise. But we are now branching it out at Parker. We're calling it the case report on ramp, where we're going to be bridging. If chiropractors have a case, we're going to be matching them up with a master's in clinical research. It's a program we're starting in September. of this year. So matching them up. So matching clinicians that have a case up with a student who will have the time to write and then we will be overseeing the whole entire process. So then they have an additional mentor. So mentor all the way around, hopefully a working circle so that clinicians, especially your first time reading a paper, but then giving them the skill set that if they want to go on, they can.
That collaborative aspect is awesome. I'd say, well done, congrats, and that's a really fantastic opportunity. So I want to encourage everybody listening and watching, keep your eyes peeled regarding that opportunity. One question that comes to mind for me, Katie, that I've always wrestled with a little bit is I've found, and I'll be very interested in your thoughts, is that some of the best research stems from a very specific question. And the more specific you can be with the question or the hypothesis, the stronger often the answer you'll receive. Yet, us as chiropractors, all three of us know, and everybody listening and watching, the body is so dynamic, right? And there's so many things going on that it almost seems like this juxtaposition of you're trying to answer a super specific question in a dynamic being. And how do you rectify that? How do you consider that? Is that something that is relevant in your world? I just would love to know your thoughts on it.
It is so relevant to the question that when I first went into research, and I still ask myself, what's your question, Katie? Because you have to get very specific with your question. But my question is all of these, but you do have to narrow it down. And that's why most research articles isn't the one paper that's going to be life changing. It's usually a series of papers that are going to the series of questions lined up together that are going to make the difference. So that's why you really have one paper be like, here's the answer. Nope, I wish it was that way. But it isn't. It's collating them again, why your work is so important and that you are collating. It's this on top of this coming together. And so I hear you and I ask that daily, like, ooh, like it's so specific, it's almost irrelevant, but it has to be to get a good answer so that you can go on to the next step.
Let's get, I guess, real and practical. What are you working on these days or in the near future? And are there opportunities? Do you have any invitations for chiropractors watching to get involved somehow?
I do. I'm so excited to be. I'm really Parker proud, and thrilled with what they have going on, and they're seeing that the vision or the need for research. So one, just within Parker University, we have 52 projects going on. So we are constantly on different topics. So that's really great. But with Parker Seminars being one of the largest conferences in the US, one of the things that I'm so excited about is that this past year in Vegas, so 2022, we were able to pilot the inaugural putting on abstracts for clinical evidence. And so we chose topics or papers that were clinically relevant. So lots of papers out there are important. Basic science, education, they're all needed, but I really wanted to be presenting to the attendees of Parker Seminars stuff that impacts clinic. And again, not one study will likely impact clinic, but if you can see the baby steps within the studies. And we used a platform called iPoster. We had these beautiful touch screens. People were asking if we were selling the TV screens. That's not what we were doing. The beautiful touch screens, and they had some interactivity. So there was some voiceover, there was some not PowerPoints, apologies. There were some presentation, some video. You could go into just seeing. I made sure every poster had like a clinical relevance, so you could just get the one take home message, or if you wanted to dig a little deeper, you can. But I can say that's the first time that raw original research has been presented at an event that is clinically focused. And I think that's really important to do, is to bridge. A lot of times we do our science events and the scientists are together and we can network and clinicians over here, but we need to be together. We need our work to be translating to them, and they, can give us what's going on in their office. And the other great thing about that is, so we're going to focus on, at those events, evidence that is recently published, that's important And we're also giving opportunities for clinicians to share their work. So if you have case reports, if you have narrative reviews, anything going on in your office that is of clinical relevance, that's done with some systematic methodology, you can submit it, and it's not the original uh, abstract. A lot of times you have to write like 400 words, and then you make a poster, which is on. You roll it out. Well, we're skipping the 400 words and moving you right into making the poster. So hopefully streamlining the process, even though changing up processes usually confuses people, but trying to streamline the process so that we go right to making the iPoster presentation. So that is going to be opening up here in May for the Vegas 2023. You get to come to Vegas and present your work and or see the work that others have are sharing in our program.
That is awesome. We're going to encourage everybody that is listening and watching. Think about how you can get involved. Jason and I were there in Vegas as well. We'll be back next year. So that was it was awesome. And I look forward to seeing the evolution. I know it's just the beginning and you're just scratching the surface and it's the tip of the iceberg. Thank you, Katie, for coming on and sharing. Thank you for all the work that you do. And again, I'm going to encourage every doc listening and watching, click the links that we drop down below, get involved. And these are fantastic opportunities to showcase the results that you're getting in practice. So Katie, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you both. It was great.
Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.